Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 9 to Side podcast, where we chat with super amazing and inspirational people who pounded the pavement before and after their 9 to 5s to get their side hustles off the ground. After listening to the interviews with these amazing guests, you'll walk away with a refreshed pep in your step and a newfound motivation to make your side hustle a reality. Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of season 2 of the 9 to Side podcast. I feel like I've been talking a lot about being a parent and kids, and I apologize if you don't have kids, so bear with me. I just feel like with kids, burnout, it's such a real thing. Burnout's a real thing if you stay at home with your kids. Burnout is a real thing if you're a working parent. I'm a working parent. My husband works. We both work. We have 3 kids. It's just exhausting. I think there's some days where I really feel like I've got this, I'm going, I'm checking the boxes, I feel really in control of my life. But more often than not, I just feel like a hot mess, barely making it through the day. When I get in bed at night, I'm like, whew, another day down. Like, what day are we on? And that's not a good way to live. It's like being like a hamster on a wheel, a little bit. I can't appreciate moments and life because I'm just going through the motions so quickly, trying to get through life. And I think there are so many people that can relate to that, especially parents, because it really is just so hard to balance it all. It's hard to balance wanting to have a career, which I want to work. I love working. I don't want to stay home, but it is so incredibly hard to balance it all. And one of the things that's really hard is like your kids get home and they need to be fed. It's like if they could just feed themselves, but when they're little, they can't. They need food made for them and prepared. And I mean, even when they can start grabbing their own food, they don't make good choices. But the mealtime it gives me anxiety to think about it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's like Groundhog Day. It's the same old thing. And you have to think of different things to feed them. And if anybody has kids and knows what kids eat, there's like a rotation of crap that they generally like. It involves mac and cheese, pizza, nuggets, some more mac and cheese, nuggets, maybe some dino nuggets, and some more mac and cheese. And like that is it. Anyway, I think a lot of parents struggle with it. I'm not someone that comes home and like cuts up fresh vegetables and puts them in my kids' like meals. And I'm like, oh, if you could buy lunch, buy it because it's one less thing to do. So I am like not that person. So when I found my next guest, her name is Moran, and she is the founder of, she started this as a bit of a side hustle, but her business is called PlanSimple. And it's all about not having to choose between meaningful work, like motherhood and health, basically. So it started out because she wrote a book called PlanSimple Meals. And it's all about simplifying things, basically. So you can provide like healthy meals for yourself, healthy meals for your kids, and still be able to manage doing other things and not feel this intense burnout. So I was like, oh, tell me more. I'm intrigued. Like, how would one go about doing that? Especially someone like me who has like a serious aversion to just generally anything grocery store related, food, that kind of thing. So since then, it's grown from the PlanSimple Meals book, and she's created Flow Planner and Flow 365. And this is her full-time thing. So she's doing this, coaching women and parents on having a more balanced life. I found it really interesting and very insightful to listen to her tell me her story and also just dive into her business. I hope you enjoy my episode 13 with Mia Moran of PlanSimple.
So I'm Mia, and I help women who are balancing motherhood, entrepreneurship, and their wellness / self-care / all the things that we don't do for ourselves. Definitely am doing it full time at this point. It definitely started as a very expensive hobby and side hustle, which we can get into. I have always been an entrepreneur. I had this other thing that when I wanted to shift and change and do something different, I definitely didn't feel like I should be able to do that. So that's what I do. And it takes up most of my time because it started as a side hustle. One of the most important things I think I've carried through is to keep the hours normal. And I think that's one of the advantages to really thinking through something as a side hustle and then, leveraging. So we create tools and containers for women to find that balance between all those things. So we have a planner, a physical planner for you to plan 90 days and really think about your wellness and your lifestyle and your spirituality and your work all on the same book. Cause I feel like as women, we silo. We also have a podcast where we're always teaching and just like you sharing examples so that really women can see what's possible. Because I think for a lot of us, we're so in our lives. And then when people are really ready to do the work, we find that one of the things that we tend to do as women is try to do everything all by ourselves. And so we have this container that's really about planning together and visioning together and doing work together. And I just think that we have to give ourselves time to really learn all these new things. That's what we do.
I love it. This speaks so much personally to me as I'm listening to you. Talk me through how you came to this idea.
Yeah. So it was 12 years ago, actually. And I had already had my 3 kids. Right now, they're all teens. But at the time, I had 3 under 5, which I'm sure you can relate to because you've been in that situation too. Yes. And it's an intense moment in motherhood. And I had built this company and we owned an apartment. Like, I just felt like I had checked off all these boxes that I was sort of supposed to check off. And life was pretty good. And I just remember I had this day and I had started to like really think about time and schedule with 3 kids. So we had someone at home and I was generally going home around 3:30 to like be with them and do dinner and all the things. And it was this one day and it was like 2:45. And I had been at work since 9. I had been in my office and I had accumulated like 10 coffee cups on my desk. I had gone to Starbucks all those times. It wasn't like I was making my own coffee. So I'd gone to Starbucks 7 times in this day in the span of however many hours. And that sort of like got to me. I was like, whoa, I just spent a lot of money on coffee. And I always was told that like caffeine was supposed to give you energy. And I was just exhausted. So I very quickly mapped that back to the fact that I had either been pregnant or nursing for basically 5 or 6 years at this point. And I just decided like in that moment, I was feeling like really guilty about feeling at all unhappy with my life. But I was like, but I need to be healthy for my family, like for everything I've made. And so somehow that led me to a yoga class, which led me to the teacher who I introduced myself to, which led me to cleaning up my food. I did not know how to cook at this point. And it just like one thing led to the next. And like you, I was just trying to find, like, I just needed like an outlet. Like I loved designing, but at that point I was doing more sales because I had people who were designing things in the company. And I found myself just wanting to interview all these like health gurus about what they were doing. So that I sort of started there and somehow only like older men would take my call. So I would talk to all these like 70-year-old men about like how they became health gurus. And the one thing that kept sticking out was their kids went off and did whatever the hell they wanted. And I was like, wait, what? Like you did all this work, you're making all this impact. And then you're ashamed of who your kids became because they're now eating junk food. Sort of got me into parenting. So basically I got into this whole, like, how can I really live my best life vibe? And so I was just collecting basically all these stories about how in a situation where it was really hard to change, I made really big changes really quickly. So that led to this really expensive side hustle where as a designer and before Pinterest and Instagram, I decided to start a magazine where I was interviewing these people and making pretty pictures and all the things. It didn't feel like a lot at the time because I literally like my energy was like through the roof with no Starbucks, but my energy was through the roof. And I was just like propelled with this need to share this message to every mother I could find that we could raise healthy kids. They didn't have to have runny noses all the time. Like we didn't have to have picky kids. Like it could be more manageable. And I was just like taking in all the knowledge I could. And I was just spitting it back out as fast as I could. At the time, there weren't podcasts. So I was making this magazine. Anyway, not that many people read it. It was a very expensive hobby.
Were you printing it? So this was a printed magazine?
It was a PDF, but like not as many people as should have like downloaded it. But it led me to writing a book. So I ended up writing a book called PlanSimple Meals about how we can feed our families well. And that book still exists and people give me good feedback on that all the time.
That's a big deal.
It was a big deal. It became a bestseller. It was like a really big deal. And so that was like the first like tangible thing of my side hustle, which felt like, okay, this is more than a hobby. This is like real. So that somehow led me, because you know how we do crazy things with children. I was like, it's feeling like a lot to have this hobby and do this design company and have 3 kids at the time. I sent my kids to a Waldorf school. So I was like paying for them to go to school. This is like crazy making. So I somehow decided to pull them all out of school for a year and go on a book tour.
Oh, I love that.
Do in such situations.
Yeah.
So I did that. And that was really what led me to where we are today, which is why I'm sharing all this, which is that I met hundreds, probably thousands of women on that book tour. For some reason, like I went west as quickly as possible. And what I realized when I was in California was that they'd been drinking green smoothies for way longer than we have on this coast.
Yeah.
Everybody knew all about kale, which I had not when I started. And that wasn't the knowledge I was meant to be sharing. What I kept hearing over and over is, yes, I know that I need kale and I know this, and I know that I want my kids to eat and I want everyone to be healthy and I want to be healthy and I want whatever, but there's just no time. And then I started like going backwards and being like, wow, like I just went through this whole process of I like got healthy. I wrote a book. I'm dyslexic. So like that wasn't an easy process. I took my kids out of school and it's all feeling really easeful and light. Like nothing was feeling heavy about any of this. And so I just started to like deconstruct why. And that really became what we do now. Then I was like, okay, now I have to grow up. Like this can't be an expensive hobby. I need to figure out how to make this into a business because I can't be doing all these things at the same time. But this is the problem that is going to fuel me and feel really good.
So when you went on the book tour, how much money did you have to invest when you said it was an expensive hobby? Like for somebody listening to this, it's all about side hustles.
So I feel like that's where the planning process that we like to teach start. So I just want to mention that. Like all those things, if you put all the details on a page, it's like a lot of details. But the thing that all 3 of those things had in common is I saw a vision. I decided that this is the thing that I'm meant to be doing, having, being, whatever it is right now. And one thing literally led to the next. So it didn't feel hard. So how the book actually ended up happening was like a series of unfortunate events. But I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make this a book. Like I'm making all these PDFs in a magazine. Like this needs to be a book. Like I have a system. Let's figure this out. My kids eat everything every night. We always have dinner. It didn't feel like a big deal. And I started and I kept like hitting walls. And then I took my then, I don't know, 5-year-old, 6-year-old skating, and somebody ran into me and I shattered my right arm and I had to get surgery and I couldn't type. So I had like made this choice and then all of a sudden, like I literally couldn't do it. And what's interesting about that is that I still had the conviction in me. I still had decided, but I needed to be open to different solutions, which I hadn't necessarily been before. And so literally the next day, an email came across, you can talk your book and we can write it and we can help you promote it and we can help it become a bestseller. Like we can do all the pieces that you want to do. You just need to know what it is that you want to share with the world. I was like, oh my God, that's me. Yeah. And the only problem is that it was $25,000. And I was like, okay, that makes this a really expensive side hustle. What comes next into my inbox is how to start a Kickstarter. The word resonated with a conference I had been to a year ago. And I was like, oh my God, I met a woman who does that. So somehow I like emailed her and she was like, oh, you can totally do this. So I just figured out how to do that. We raised $35,000. It paid me. I wrote the book. I paid the guy, but I even made a little and we got everybody who paid a book. And that did end up adding up and that did end up being an expense. And at the time I still had a design company. It wasn't like we were going into the negative, but I was seeing more and more of what I could have been bringing home.
But that's so smart. I mean, it's good to break it down for people who are listening because I think people could think like, oh my God, that's you. So now you have this successful book published. The PlanSimple Meals book, was it a lot of the concepts in that and turning that into a business? Talk me through like the first steps of building this out.
So basically I didn't have much of a plan except that I knew like I needed to get word out. I needed to talk. Like I saw other people on stages doing their book launch. The people who I had hired, paid the money to, were like, we can get you on TV stations all across the country. So I was like, okay, let's do this.
You have to pay for press for a book tour, or are they paying you? Like when you go on a press tour?
I paid, no, they're just inviting you, but I didn't know how to like be invited or like make the pitch. And so these people who I had paid to help me write the book also pitched like the station. So they would just be like, show up in Richmond, Virginia at NBC. And I'd be like, okay. So I sort of plotted out the tour and then they would help match me up. So that was great. And I spoke at conferences. I organized speaking at schools. A lot of that was paid. I wasn't making as much as I had in my first company. I wasn't losing money anymore. I was educating my kids. Like it was more like I was paying enough for the lifestyle I had created, but I still wasn't quite thinking of it as a business as I had my design company. But then when I got back and I was really clear about this process, that planning was really important versus like that I didn't want to be teaching about kale. I wanted to be teaching about how to plan. And I created a planner and I really documented the system that became the flow planning system. I think at first it was like an identity shift. It was like I had always identified as I'm a designer, I'm a CEO of this design company. In all that, I had also been certified to become a coach. I couldn't quite call myself a coach yet. Like I wasn't ready to hang my shingles and be like, I'm a coach.
You did that for the reason of this, like moving towards this business idea.
I was sort of moving toward, but it wasn't like, I can't explain it. It wasn't that on purpose. Like there was like little pieces of learning that were happening the whole time. Like I learned so much writing the book. That guy was a coach. He was coaching me how to write it. When I went on the book tour, I worked with a TEDx speaking coach and I learned how to give a good talk and like be on stage. So I kept learning, and I almost feel like I signed up to learn how to be a coach because I had been a consultant for so long. And I just wanted to make sure I was responding correctly to people in the audience. Like I didn't really realize how it would all go together. But when I got back, I was like, okay, Mia, now it's time to like not take on any more design projects because I think I was still taking them on aside. So by then it was like done. There was no office anymore. Once I moved to the suburbs, which happened somewhere in there, like I decided I didn't want to go to the office anymore. The business, the side hustle, motherhood, they were all like trying to figure out where they fit in the grand scheme of things and the balance. And it was really after the book tour that I was like, okay, if I'm going to stay balanced, no more design, focus on this, figure out the business model and really serve people, really help people.
Did you get with a business coach to be like, this is my idea? What's the first step of truly launching the business and creating the business model?
So one of the things that I had done since the very beginning is I feel like when I first had the idea for the magazine, that's when like the first course like popped into my awareness. And so I think I took a course on how to create a blog. And not so far after that, but way before I started it, I signed up for Marie Forleo's B School. So like way before I was ready, I was investing in courses and sort of more group coaching situations. In hindsight, I wasn't ready and I was like more in limbo and I never knew which business to apply things to, but I learned a ton. So I was constantly learning about how I can expand myself. And so I feel like even without a plan, just the plan to consistently be open to learning and consistently be coachable really served me well. Like joined a network marketing company to see what that was like. Those people teach you something. And I, would take courses on Facebook ads and how to post on Instagram. So I was constantly surrounding myself, and I still do constantly surround myself by people who are just steps ahead of me. And then I would say like 4 years ago, I was like, okay, now I need a focused coach on my ideas and how to fulfill my ideas.
What was the first thing that you offered? Like the course, is the course the
main
main
so
thing
it's interesting because I was coached away from a year at the very beginning and I was told it's just too long to sell. And it was totally what my heart was telling me I should be doing. But
to do
like,
a full year.
Yeah. Okay. But I was like, all right, whatever. I'll make a 6-week class. So I made a 6-week class about the book that was more food focused. And then I think I made a 6-week class that was more general, like you creating the life that you want. It's funny. I've always taught on Zoom.
I saw that you saw that. Yeah. You're like, we've been doing Zoom for a long time.
Yeah. I've always taught on Zoom. So yeah, that was always a thing.
What were you pricing the 6-week class at when you were selling that? That was your first product.
I think it was like $297 and $397, some sort of tier in there, maybe $497 if you didn't do it soon enough. And it was great. But one of the things that I've really, really learned over the years is that you have to keep understanding your audience. So really understanding my people. And what I realized was that for some people who were mothers balancing all these things, they would sign up for 6 weeks and it would be their perfect attention span. They will have signed up because they saw like an opening in their lives for 6 weeks. And I would try to schedule it at an appropriate time. Like the kids are back in school, like now there's 6 weeks, or it's after January, now there's 6 weeks. So I would try to schedule it that way. There would be people that would have that 6 weeks and would sign up. But then what happens afterwards is that like, if it's the holidays, then your family comes and then chaos happens. And then all of a sudden you're not following through in the way that you had promised yourself before. And to me, that felt not like that didn't feel genuinely what I wanted to be able to give women.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always like, we just need more time. And then there was other people who wouldn't even open it in the 6 weeks because something would come up on day 2. So they would like literally never see the material. Of course, they had access to like the recordings, but I just really believe that when we can show up live and be supported, whether it's a really good day or a really bad day or a really stressful day or whatever, that's what we need. And I just wasn't able to give that in the way that I wanted to be able to.
So what changed, like when you were rethinking that? Because it is.
So when I changed to a year, I feel like I just talked about it differently. Like I feel like I could express what it was. I was confident of the transformation that we could create because I knew that it took every season. I knew that if someone said that they wanted to build a business or live in a decluttered house or change their food, and a lot of times people are working on all 3 of those things, they needed to understand what that meant in a holiday season. They needed to understand what that meant when the kids are home in summer and what it meant during the school year. It's just everything is always changing. And then what I didn't even know, because I just always had this vision of a year, but what I didn't realize is that then things change from year to year. Like I didn't even see that when I was starting, right? And like it's different in grade school than high school. And it's different in when you're in childbearing years and when you're in perimenopause. And so what we found is that people either have stayed for the whole time or they might have left for a little bit and then like needed to come back in because something triggered them. So we tend to have people for a long time because women are really unsupported.
It is crazy when you think about it, like how much women do. And that's why I feel like your business really spoke to me. I want to talk a little bit about your marketing tactics. Yeah. One, how much the course costs for a year. How do you get someone to invest in themselves to commit that time?
Yes.
To putting the work in for something like that, because it all sounds amazing. I'm like, yes, I would love to do that. I'm like, but then that also requires committing that time.
So the cost is at the moment, as we're recording this, it's $3,300 for the year or $297 a month. And then every once in a while, when I run live events, it goes down to like 3,000 or something if you pay in full. So I will say, like, genuinely, that it's an amazing deal. It's not expensive for what we offer because we offer basically the ability to be coached every single day or the ability to like have somebody be with you when you're doing hard things every single day. So on Mondays at the moment, I run the calls. And what happens on Mondays is that everybody comes to like a smaller group call. So there's sometimes 2 people on the calls, but we cap them at 15. And that is a time when you just come and you say, like, literally, these are my 3 priorities for the week. I'm like a little bit stuck on this one. Like, do you have any feedback? That's when we give feedback. But also sometimes people are just like, these are the 3 things I'm doing. And I'm just saying it out loud right now so that somebody hears me because this is really important right now. So we'll ask clarifying questions, but it's about that. And then on Fridays, we all plan together. And then every 90 days, we have these weekend retreats that are like broken up into coming together and being in community together, but also planning on your own time. So we've created this idea of how to retreat at home. So my biggest obstacle right now is convincing people that Zoom is still a good thing. And then all throughout the week, we do a couple of things. So I do the Monday and Friday calls. And then every day there are 4 90-minute co-working sessions, which I do not run. They're kind of like yoga classes for productivity. So like we show up and depending on who the teacher is, somebody might have you quiet your mind with a 2-minute guided meditation. Somebody might do breath work, but we basically get you grounded. We show you how to focus. You write down your thing, you share it in the chat, and then they're holding space of timing 2 37-minute sprints. And then in the middle, queuing up for like a break, looking away from your computer. All of our calls are really focused on our people, we call them Flow 365ers, but on women doing what they want. So there's not a lot of like extra time. Whenever anyone's like, I feel behind, like, should I go listen? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I feel like very rarely is there anything you need to go learn. Just like show up to the next call, like show up. This is about showing up to your life. So we are experimenting right now with a group of people who are trying to build their businesses to a certain number. But until then, I actually did it by time because we're such a global community. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wonder if we should like put everyone together who's like really working at home or really trying to focus on their health. But the truth is, and like one of the benefits, I think, of the people that we're collecting, and I'm so grateful, come together, is that I think one of the things we miss out on is people in different stages. So
Mhm.
sometimes when someone signs up and like they're retiring and that's the thing they're working on for a year, I'm like, did you read the marketing? Because I feel like I market so strongly to like mothers with kids home, but they do. And there's
Yeah.
something that resonates. And we just had 2 babies. We just had 2 flow babies. We were literally like on Zoom calls when people were like going into labor right when they come home from the thing. And I just think there's such a spectrum of experience. So somebody might have built a company and have feedback for somebody, and somebody already had kids and has feedback for the younger people, but they're starting a company, and the person who's just having kids so has a really vibrant company. So I feel like it's that place as women where like we used to have these villages of women and there were different ages of people. So at first I wanted to group everybody, but then I feel like there's almost more merit to everybody being able to give the piece that they really have and receive what they don't. And there's just sort of been magic in that. That said, about once a week, there's a different call that like a planning call that will be focused on something. So like we'll run a plan your content for the month call for entrepreneurs, because not everybody's entrepreneurs. We'll run a meal plan for the month call for anyone who's like has a health goal that they're really wanting to do. So we'll run those specific things, like those also get sprinkled through to take more into the silos. And then we have like an online forum thing that's broken into areas of focus as well.
Oh, got it. So not everybody that you focus on is necessarily building their own business or side hustle. Could they be like, do you have stay-at-home moms? Do you have people like myself who also have 9-to-5s? Who would you say your target audience is when you're marketing to people? Are they the
My
female
target audience are somebody who would consider themselves an entrepreneur, whether that's full-time or a side hustle, a mother and or a caretaker, and really wanting to also take care of their body or their home. But I'd say the commonality has changed. So a lot of times, actually, we've had a few entrepreneurs, I won't say a lot of times, we've had a few entrepreneurs who come in and are trying to work their business, and it's causing more stress on their health, like motherhood and different areas. And so they spend some time trying to figure out how to get employed, right? And because that's going to really serve them. And then we have a lot of people who are starting in a job and use this as a way to pick my brain and pick other entrepreneurs' brains about how to start their business and move that piece forward.
It sounds pretty open to what you want to come to the table with.
We have started a group. One of the things that did happen after multiple years, so we're just responding to that now. There is a group of entrepreneurs who are, and also because we have a podcast and we speak to a lot of people who are very sort of seen. So we do have a group of people who are very seen, and so might not have a group of people that they can talk about motherhood, health, home with, because that would in some way feel like it's out of alignment with their business.
Right.
And also a lot of those people happen to be some of our big referrers. My whole thing is like, how do we create the safest space? So I think if anything changes over time, it's that. Like, I'm just always making sure that whatever container we're creating is helping people change and evolve.
That's great. How many clients do you currently have?
We have a little over, I think, 50 something women right now. And our goal is to be consistently at 300. So we scaled this year so that we can have the capacity for that, actually. So by the end of this year, we hope to have 111 people in the program.
111.
Yeah. And we have teachers to support that. And we have these co-working sessions to support that. So we have the infrastructure now to support that, which feels really great. And then once we're holding them, then like the next step is what needs to shift now to really be able to hold space for 300 women.
Got it. And you have a team of people?
Since the book, I've had a virtual assistant who is still the same virtual assistant who's with me. So in the past year, as we wanted to ramp up the marketing, I actually had her train and find 2 people to sort of help with podcast and marketing stuff. So that's the marketing piece. And to be honest, that's the piece that was hardest. Being out there myself was the piece that was hardest for me. So that was the piece that I got supported on first. It was also the piece that a lot of business coaches said to be supported on first. And then just this year, or like since December, we happened to attract into Flow a lot of amazing coaches and healers. So I pulled some of them out, and now they are paid to be teachers.
Oh, that's
so great. Yeah. So we have 3 people who can also coach on sort of the Monday calls. we have a resident shaman and a resident nervous system person. The places where we tend to struggle and like get into that, like planning is just a Jenga game, is that we forget to make time for visioning. So the shaman is really there to hold space for like, what is your future self doing? What is the vision? And so once a month, she's leading meditations. You can go find any of the meditations at any point, but she's really holding the space for the future. And then Kelly, who is our nervous system guide, she does a session once a month, but people have access to both of them at all times. That's really about like, as you're actually starting to do things to, I don't know, better your home, better your business, be a better mom, like whatever, as you're changing, sometimes it can be really jarring to our systems. And so she's there just to like calm our systems down, like make us safe, give us tools so that we can still follow through. So I find that there's this visioning piece, this planning piece, and this follow through piece.
That's great. In terms of marketing right now, is it social media? Do you do Facebook ads? Is it referrals? What brings in the majority of your clients?
I focused on being on podcasts, which we did hire someone to help us with. So that is money out, but then being on podcasts obviously is free. And then we focus on an affiliate program. So one of my things that I really, really wanted is that I just want to like create this abundance loop, because if the space we're holding helps more women be abundant, like I feel like so good to me. So the price is 3,000 actually. And we give 1,000 to any affiliate who brings someone in. So my vision, and one of the reasons actually why it's $297 a month, is that I had done a lot of nutrition programs and I had done a lot of business classes. And I had heard this story from a lot of other people that they had all these classes that were sitting on their desktops or like programs that they never fully leaned into. And so my vision of this was that it really would actually help any coach or any nutritionist or any doctor or declutter or whatever you do, that it would really help you make clients that might not follow through on your process be like your best case study. So we come in and sit on the side of other programs. So one of our biggest refers is somebody who runs this amazing 60-day food reset. And she's said a number of times that the people who are in flow, like the ones who are showing up and doing things, and especially the ones who are mothers and have so much going on. And her program is pretty intense. Like it's a lot of food changes, but it's totally possible. I think sometimes it just takes focus and attention and really cultivating that dream and all the things. And so that's what we really like to do. And so obviously when we partner with people, we want to be able to.
I love that idea. I think that's so smart.
Yeah. So in that sense, we're not paying a lot. I really wanted to be able to partner. And my thinking behind that was like what I stay the most in control with. So to answer the rest of your question, when it's like not partnerships and podcasts, the other thing like I've really focused on over the years is building my email list, and not so much actually on social media. So part of my own 90-day goals right now is actually being more present on social media, because I have more support now. The PlanSimple Instagram, like I can have help posting. And then I've actually just launched my own so I can share more personal stories. But that's like a new thing for me. And before it was like emails are what I saw consistent sales from versus going on Facebook.
That's really good advice. Because in kind of wrapping up, I always ask, what advice would you give other people who have side hustles, starting something in a similar, whether it's coaching or something they're passionate about like you?
Yeah. So go through those steps of like what your vision is. And a lot of times that's just why you want to do this, or closing your eyes and seeing yourself do that, like really connect to the vision of what you want. And then from where you are today, right? So like you have this vision, but from where you are today, make a plan that's based on that future, not you and your job. What does that future person need to be doing to have the success that they have, and bridge the two places a little bit? That's, to me, planning really is, especially when we're talking about a side hustle. It's like, okay, I only have 1 hour a day. What can I do in an hour? Instead of like, how can I serve my people? How can I get this message out the best? And then like you figure out what the things are, and then you do the things that you can do in an hour. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just coming at it from the different way. So make a plan and then have some accountability to like follow through on it, because it's hard. The easy way for initial support, I think, is accountability. So do you know someone else building a business, or do you know someone who has one who's really successful and might be a mentor? they can help support you. They can answer questions. So getting that support early on, I think is really, really important because we can get really lost in our head and our thoughts and just sometimes need to get pulled back into reality.
I think that's so good. I think it's great for people. I mean, this is why I want to do this and have other people hear it, because I think it's really important for people to hear that, because there are a lot of people I think who have like good ideas and things they want to do that they're passionate about that never get started because they don't know where to start or they don't put out the plan. It can seem overwhelming and then they give up. So I love that advice. In terms of for your business, where do you see like for the next couple of years? Do you have ideas of how you want to grow the business? Plans of expanding?
As stepping into the role of CEO and out of the side hustler, really my focus is staying focused. I know that future me serves 300 women with ease and grace and not stressful, and is still taking good care of herself and still a really supportive mother. I look at something and I'm like, okay, but how could this support that goal? And can it support that goal? And can I see this a different way? So really staying focused on that goal is my big thing for the next 3 years. And I've surrounded myself with people who know that so that I can always be reminded.
I love it. I love people that are doing also side hustles that allow them to focus more on their family. So I thank you so much for being on. I think lastly,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was so nice meeting you. Lastly, just tell everybody where they can find you, where you are, what's your website, on social media, Instagram, anything like that. Yep.
Awesome. So we are at plansimple.co on Instagram, which isn't normally what I lead with, but now that I've told you it's my goal, then there. And I'm also at the Mia Moran is the personal place where I'm sharing all the things about having 3 teenagers. And then plansimple.com is our website. And we do have a free course called From Overwhelm to Ease, a feminine guide to productivity, which anyone can go get. And it's really about why planning the way that we teach works and how to use it to plan on a daily basis. So you can go there and grab that. And then we have a podcast, which maybe you'll be on someday, which is the PlanSimple podcast.
And your book too.
If anybody wants and my book is so, and from our site, you can get to all the different things. So from our site, you can get to the book and the planners.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.